click this button and say, yo, what up? How's it going, man?
Goes well, sir. Yourself?
I'm well. I'm quite amazing. I'm quite amazing. So, we have a Fire Todoroki list, a list that I am in love with. I absolutely love this character, and I love this symbol a lot, to the point where I took it to the big beautiful Sin City. I took it to Las Vegas for that regional, and so I've got a lot to say, and I got a lot of practice with this particular deck. And so with that said, shoot me with the elevator pitch. What do you got going on with this list?
Okay. Well, Todoroki has kind of been my first deck. Been grinding with it since the beginning. And spoiler alert, it's not been very long, as I'm still relatively new to the game.
Mm-hmm.
Feel really comfortable with the deck. However, I really want to roll up my sleeves and really start tackling against meta. And I've noticed that I have some bad matchups.
Okay.
I recently got my teeth kicked in by a life deck by who shall not be named. With that,
go on.
I'm taking a step back to try to reevaluate this.
Okay, I dig it.
So really would like to try to optimize the deck and listen to your thoughts and wisdoms of what I can do to improve this, particularly as we get into Season 3. Lastly, even after taking a look at this, I know there's the new promo Flamethrower coming up, and that'd be something I would like to hear your thoughts on after we kind of dive down into this deck. Other than that, I'm comfortable about staying about 65, but I have no problems going up or down, and I'm not really attached to any one of the cards. So that is my speech.
Okay, that makes total sense to me. Yes, and then okay. All right. So first and foremost, I've got a ton of an absolute ton of things that I want to say about this deck. First and foremost, I think you've made you have not included anything that doesn't that shouldn't be in the deck, right? I don't think that there's very much in here that you've missed. The number one thing that I think you've missed is Sugar Rush Power Up. It should be the other half of your actions. This card is how you close out games as this character under this symbol. This card is exceptionally good. It's very, very good at keeping your strings alive and keeping your attacks relevant. This character is a poke build pass character. He has one move that is so super powered. It's staggeringly good, right? Taking and having a 5 low for 7, stun 4 giant ice wall is not fair. It's not fair. It's just, that's not a fair card. Having a 7 high for 6, stun 2, draw 2, possibly 6 more damage for Heat Wave, unfair. Stun 3, plus 2 speed, plus 2 damage, plus 3 damage, Dark Shadow Ruins, not fair. Every other attack in this during your string is a limp dick. Sugar Rush Power Up makes it not so. Right, Sugar's Power Up says that I get +4 on my last one. This one gets bigger. This one matters, right?
Okay, so with so many different actions that we like to play, how would you do the ratios?
I would do this, and then I would do this. Evil Gaze is exceptionally good. I think it is very good. It is only good on turn 2 when we have Ice Storm. Evil Gaze into Ice Storm says that we get to potentially, going second, put them down a card, to the point where I wouldn't even play the Evil Gaze mainboarded. I would put maybe 2 of them in the sideboard, maybe 1 of them in the sideboard, and I would play Capture Evildoers in the mainboard at 1 of. And this is something I learned from Vegas, because in Vegas I mainboarded 2 Evil Gaze, and this was my lineup.
Okay.
Yeah. If I had Capture Evildoers, my entire tournament changed, because it was selectively removing momentum to fight like Monetas. It would get rid of momentum when I fought against Giros. It would just do so much more for me than selectively destroying one of their foundations that they were just going to get back.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I
so
like it.
for that reason, I'm going to put this one up in the sideboard. We're going to cut this one. And then we're going to play one Capture Evildoers. Now, onto the attack lineup. Okay? This is the best card in your deck, bar none. If we get to see 2 of this card on turn 2, we actually just get to win the game. Because we always get to have one of them because they can't deal with 2. This card has to be a 4 of. This card has to be a 4 of. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's also a 1 mid block with Breaker 1, which is stellar inside of our deck. It's very, very good.
Makes sense.
Cinder Conviction. How do you feel about this card?
Hit and miss. It feels a nice high block. Every once in a while, if I have the momentum, adding that +1 to keywords can sometimes go off, but very niche times. At the same time, since we are kind of that poke, I do like the fact that, hey, I'm going to burn us both for 2, so I'm taking your life total down. So I'm able to get into a kill range.
I love it. I love it. I think this is the neatest one of all time. I think that this card's slot is taken up by what Giant Ice Wall can do and how consistent this card is. This 5 low for 7 will always be better than this 5 mid for 7. This card has stun 1, whereas Giant Ice Wall has stun 2. Excuse me. This could be stun 4. This can only ever be stun 3, but it could be stun 5 if we're willing to spend a momentum. And our character's already too momentum hungry for this card to be worth it, sadly. I tested this card before Vegas, and I never got this card to really work. It was never worth the 5 diff opener it was supposed to be, and it was never worth the 7 diff closer it was supposed to be. I always was being forced to close with something like an Ice Storm, which has that same powerful 3, if that makes sense.
Yep, no, I'm tracking.
All right, so
it makes sense.
I'm going to take it. I'm going to cut this Cinder Conviction. I'm going to put one in your sideboard so that we know where it is. And then leave this one. I'm going to push Ice Storm up to a 4 of. And then, so this is the exact list lineup that I was taking to Vegas 2 days before I went to Vegas. And then I made one cut, and that was Half Hot Ignition. I traded Half Hot Ignition for 4 Nitro Explosion Ignitions. My reasoning is because it's a 1 mid block, not a 2 mid block. This card clears itself from the card pool, and the biggest issue, and you saw this today, was checking poorly late in your string, right?
Yep.
If I play an attack, play Ignition, play an attack, I can clear Ignition and get rid of it. And now I've got -1 difficulty for the rest of my turn. In addition to that, this card wants to soak up the +2/+2 so that we can -1 speed +2 damage. And so it then becomes a 5 mid for 8. Whereas this is just already starts as a 5 high for 4. That we can just give more stats with things like Revel. Right? This card also says if I have 2 of them, I get a momentum for free. I clear a progressive, I get a momentum for free. And I can give any move powerful 2. Any move. As opposed to this thing just getting +2 damage. The one downside is this card does automatically hit always. But as you saw today, this card doesn't necessarily matter it being in momentum. It's just an extra 4 damage move. I think this card just has way more value. But it's a tough sell.
No, I'm tracking what you're saying. So, like, matchups outside of people playing wall cling, I like the half hot because it dings the damage and then I'm able to get it to the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
However, playing in certain matchups as we did today,
mm-hmm.
I would definitely have traded out the half hots to go to nitro. And I didn't even, I never even thought of putting nitro in there, to be truthful. However, it makes total sense based upon being able to build out bigger strings, soaking up, as well as just, I can start now I have that better kill condition, as well as the sugar power rush comes into late. So now because I've always been the fact that I have to play a longer game set because I'm poke, build, poke, build, poke, build.
Right.
But then I get to a point where these games where I'm just going to, other decks will outpace me and I just get destroyed.
Also, right? Think about how good you play Giant Ice Wall, right? And you opt to not use the +2/+2 here because we have a Searing Glacial Storm, right? So I'm gonna stun 2, and then I'll use Todoroki. I'll stun another 2. I'll play Searing Glacial Storm. I'm gonna stun 2 again. I'm gonna give it +2/+2. I'm gonna give it +2/+4. This is the world's biggest Searing Glacial Storm, and they actually can't block it because it's 6 high, right?
Yeah.
So like this is for 10, 12. It's a 6 high for 12. That we like use our character and then the Sugar Rush power up. This thing hit. It's a 6 high for 12. All right, it'll go to my momentum. My next turn, I'll pick it up. Oh, did you overbuild? All right, Searing, I'll nuke the board. No, you don't get to rebuild. Sorry, man.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so I totally get half out ignition. Nitro Explosion Ignition is where it's at. I think personally.
Well, I will give it a shot.
Okay.
Because we like trying new things.
Yeah. All right, on to the foundations. The foundations are where we differ the most. But there wasn't anything in here that like I wasn't playing. You're just playing things that you're just playing things that I wouldn't, and you're playing at numbers that I don't love. First and foremost, Revel has to be a 4 of. This card says when I get to the end of my deck, it is form draw 2 cards, and that's incredible. That's so incredibly good. And it says discard the top card of your deck. Your attack is +1 damage. We could turn 2 Sugar Rush people if we see 2 of these on turn 2.
Gotcha.
It also...
It was the same... Yep.
Go ahead.
No, same line of thinking, because originally, like, when I started with the deck, it was all about trying to get Frigid online.
It also triggers Frigid. That was the next thing I was going to say. We're on the same page.
Perfect.
Yeah. Up next, Making a Stand. We're going to play 3 of it with a 4th in the sideboard. I don't think we have the room to play 3 of it.
Okay.
We already talked about it in the Typhoon. This card leaves. Goodbye. Clever Distraction is a worse version of Ice Gliding. So we're going to cut it. And we're going to put in 3 Ice Gliding. Self-Assured. How do you feel about this card?
I find it as a great defensive option.
Mm-hmm.
I have rarely used it for its draw 1 card for every 4.
Mm-hmm.
It allows me to basically, hey, you are playing an attack. I have this Ice Storm in my hand. I want to make that a low so I can start disrupting you.
I agree. I agree totally. I think at most it should be a 1 of. I don't think you need this card at all. I think you could sideboard this card for whenever you go second, for whenever you need your Ice Storms to matter more. Siding in a little package of Evil Gaze and Self-Assured and making sure that your Ice Storms are good. I could see this card here, right?
I'm tracking.
And what are we at? 65. I went into that tournament with a 66 card deck, and so we're like so incredibly close to where my list is at. Now is where we get to the hardest part, right? Now is where we get to where I get to break your cute little heart, because after playing this deck for 5 rounds, the number 1 change that I would have made is this right here. This deck would have started as Tokoyami. This deck should have started as a Tokoyami deck with literally nothing changed. The only thing that changes is we put Todoroki in the sideboard, we take the Searings when you put them in the sideboard, and we mainboard Crow and Frogs. And I think I could have topped this event. We already have everything that we could need or want for a Tokoyami, Fire Tokoyami deck that's a little thicker, a little bigger. We take the Go for the Wins and the Capture Evildoers, and we trade them out for 4 of his action. And we put Todoroki in the sideboard for whenever people are nuking us faster than we can nuke them, right? For like the Moneta matchup, for something that we feel like we can't actually race down, like an Asui or something. If we feel like we can keep them off of their momentum or stun them down for one big poke build pass type gameplay, we're allowed to make that hard switch into Todoroki too. I think Tokoyami is the right call for the fire list. With that said, with things like Flamethrower coming in the future, I think Todoroki plays that card way better than Tokoyami does. I think, right? I think, giving that card stun 2 and +2/+2 every single turn without like forcing to have the action in your hand feels amazing, right? But this character already wants to play this card and this card and this card and this card and this card, and he probably just plays them better because he's a 7-hander, and he makes them hit harder, all of them, as opposed to one of them, and he makes them hit faster because of the action. So over the course of the turn, the +2/+2 still gets applied, but it's based on the action as opposed to the character. We have to draw an extra card. And this was the hardest truth that I had about Todoroki too, is he should have just been Tokoyami.
Okay.
I've stunned you into silence.
Yeah, heart and soul crushed. But you're not wrong.
So I realized this whenever I played Tim Keefe round 6, I think. I played Tim Keefe round 6, and it was actually a single decision that made him win our game, as opposed to losing the game. I had a high block in my hand, and he had a giant ice storm in his hand, and he had a Hellflame Javelin, and he decided to play the ice storm as opposed to the javelin. He played the javelin, I blocked, and I lived, and he couldn't do anything else. He played the ice storm, and he won, right? And he sat there and he looked at me for an entire 60 seconds, thinking about what was in my discard pile, what was on my board, what could I have, what could I block with, yada yada yada, and opted to go for the ice storm. The correct play. Our lists where he was playing a tight 50 cards, where I was playing a thicker deck because I wanted to play things like Searing, right? Searing Glacial Storm, and I had things like Frozen where he didn't. I had things like Nervous Habit and he didn't. I had League Interview and he didn't. But we played literally the exact same list, and he won the tournament and I didn't, because he played the better character to run this 55 card list, right?
No, you're making sense.
With that said, this character can top 16 with this list. I believe that. I believe that he can. I think that you have to work way harder than Tokoyami, right? If you wanted to just go in and win a Nintendo Switch and then leave, Tokoyami's the way to go, right? But if you are a fan of Todoroki and you want to play the fire symbol, I think this is as close to a list as we can get. The only thing that I would change about my list personally is I think this card is really important to the meta, and we've talked about it already. I showed you all the cards that this card touches, and I wouldn't play Defrosting.
No, yeah.
I think this being a three diff whenever we're running 2 checks means, I said in the last video as well, it's very nerve-wracking to play this card on turn 1, which means that we actually open the game as a 5-hander and not a 6-hander, and that does not feel very good.
Exactly. It was the same kind of process thinking, in the sense of I had Typhoon in there and I was slowly falling out of favor of Typhoon, but in your famous words, it had his big dumb face on it, so I liked it.
I get it totally. Yeah, that card in conjunction with Heroic Lineage is really, really awesome. And if we weren't mainboarding Searing Glacial Storm, if we were sideboarding them, I'd be down. The fire symbol has to mainboard this card. It has to. It just has to, yeah. Or else my opponent builds to 10, and I stare at them, and I should just scoop. There's nothing I can do about it, because I can't wall break as well as Tokoyami can with all the plus speed that he gets on every move with the actions.
Yep, I've realized that in those builds. Or fights, rather, but yeah. You're correct.
With that said, though, right, and I can hear how sad you are about the Bird versus Todoroki. With that said, though, this list can do it, right? You just got to play your ass off. You just got to play matches over and over and over again and understand what is good, what is bad about these lists.
No, you're right. Yep, we just got to crank it out.
Cards. Yeah, 17, 31. Yeah, this is like almost exactly my list. I guess technically like this is not supposed to be. I'll put this in the sideboard, but I put it up there because for dramatic effect. So 64 cards. Yeah.
Yep.
If I were to go to a tournament and I was forced to play Fire Todoroki again, I wouldn't. I would play Tokuyami. But if I was forced to play Fire Todoroki again, this is probably very close to the list that I would play. There might be some small changes with things like drownings in the main board and capture evildoers and not the evil gazes, but like this was where it was at for me. This is it.
Okay.
Actually, I think I played 4 callings and you're only playing 3. That might be what pushes us up to 65 cards. But I mean, the lower number of cards we can find, the quicker we can find our Dark Shadow Ruin, and we have to have that card to play the game.
Okay.
So push back on me. What do you like? What do you not like about the things that I've said?
No, it was definitely gut punch. Luckily, Dairy Queen is about a mile and a half away, so we'll solve that problem here shortly.
Okay, all right. That is...
we talked about drowning and resentment.
Yes.
Particularly, is this in looking at season 3 meta, thinking about a lot of these building decks and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Do we sideboard this or do we bring it into the main?
It depends on how much build there is in set 3, because when you're looking at season 3 versus set 3, I'm assuming that when the season 3 promos start to come out, because season 3 and the end of season 2 is like the same thing, right?
Yeah.
I think Drowning in Resentment is the number 1 slept on card for solving the life earth issues that people are having, right? Life Symbol and Earth Symbol are popping off because I don't think enough people are playing this card in their main board. What do you replace for it? Probably these Frozens. Just because the Earth and the Life builds are... the Earth build in particular, Earth and Good, are so good at dealing with committing cards and stunning, which our character inherently has like an issue with, right? Which is another reason that we should be playing the Bird instead, is because we're not so reliant on stun, where the Earth and the Good symbol just take advantage of this, right? Being Todoroki 2 and watching my opponent build 3 It Can't Be Fixed on turn 1, I look at them and I go, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? Right? I'll use my characters. My character now says, in hand, you build 3 foundations. I'm gonna lose. I'll just lose, right? Because I'm supposed to be an incremental advantage deck, and I just bursted you to the moon. And the same thing with the life decks. They just get to play someone with style and deal with my speed. And you saw that today, right? On the one move that mattered, I put your speed down to 0 and I blocked it, which meant that like just once per turn you were a 5-hander and I discarded a card to make you a 5-hander. And so it's an interesting way to think about blocking. I discard a card.
It worked.
You discard a card. That's blocking. Hold on. That's a really roundabout way to think about blocking.
Oh, it's hand economy, so
right.
The trade-off of 1 for 1.
Yeah. It's interesting. Okay, sorry. But yeah. So yeah, I think Drowning Resentment should be in this deck somewhere, probably over top of the Frozen, to the point where I'm gonna put this card in the sideboard, and I'm going to. It's either that or we like drop Frozen down to a 2 of. We take. I mean, Latent Skill's already a 3. We have to play Latent Skill. Let's look at our block zones. Actually, block zones. Highs, Frozen, Stronger Darkness. We have to keep Stronger. We have no spams. That's the other big issue with this deck is its spam count is not very good. We could lose some mids for it. What could we lose? We could put Revel at a 3 of, and that feels terrible. We could put League Interview at a 1 of, and then play triple Drowning. Right? We cut 1 Frozen, we cut 1 Revel. We're still at 64, and we're a little higher on our blocks, our high blocks. And maybe this is what gets us there. A little extra damage, a little stopping of the extra build, right? Yeah.
All right, well, definitely give it a shot here.
I love it, man. Yeah, I want,
Well,
man,
awesome, sir.
I want this deck to work so bad, but it's really tough to look at Todoroki and then you like struggle with your games, and every game that you win, you're like, yes, I got it, and then you like look over and it's like you just watch Tokoyami be like, oh, you're not done yet. Oh, I've finished 20 minutes ago, and I was doing the exact same thing you were. Why are you? That was tough for you, and I'm like, yeah, it was tough for me. I'm like, oh, why didn't you just like throw 14 damage moves on every single attack? And I'm like, well, I only get to do this once, and you get +1 on every move.
Fair enough, but you tell that bird to shut his pie hole.
Agreed. Yeah. But
all right, my good sir, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't love it, but I don't dislike love it. So I guess we'll go with it.
If you are stuck on Fire Todoroki, and this is the deck that you want to go and win worlds with, right? Which I want that for you if that's what you want. I think this might be for set 2. This is, I think, the closest that we have to making this list as competitive as it can be. There might be some small things we can tweak and change, like maybe we do need the 4th calling for backup. Maybe we only need 1 nervous habit, and maybe League Interview is not a good enough card, right? Like there's options that we have here to make some small changes. But I think that this is like 99% of the way there, 98% of the way there, maybe.
All right, well, let's do it.
All right, man. Let me stay on the line. Is there anything that you disagree with what I've said today? It is okay for you to fight back against me. I don't mind it.
No, it's hard for me to fight back, not knowing what to fight back against. So let's, let me give this a shot, and then if I do dislike it, then we can come back and fire across the bow then.
What a beautiful answer. All right, man. We'll stay on the line just long enough for me to shoot the list over to you. And once again, thanks for the support over on Patreon. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right. Peace.